I'm sorry, there's no intro today because Milky and Pinky are still at the hospital after that little accident they had last time. Anyway, we'll start with a new topic. We'll leave phonology aside for a while and we will focus on morphology. That is, how words were built in the Germanic language. Let's start. A few videos about phonology were necessary before starting speaking about words, as sounds are the basic units of a language. But morphology is too wide as a field to cover the whole subject in a short video. That's why today we will just make a short introduction and talk about some specific categories of words. We will have time to go through the others in the next videos. As difficult as it is, we will try to understand what differences arose when Germanic emerged from Indo-European. Something we need to say in the first place is that words belong to specific categories that are called parts of speech, depending on what they are used for or how they behave in a sentence. We're not sure what parts of speech the Proto-Indo-European language had, and we can roughly assume they were more or less the same we can find in Germanic and in most modern Indo-European languages today. Well, at least the most important ones. We can assume we've always had, since the beginning of the Indo-European history, nouns depicting things or people or abstract concepts. We had verbs depicting actions performed in different moments or in different ways. We had interjections, that is spontaneous words people have always used to express a strong reaction. No! Some parts of speech can be inflected, which means words can assume a different form depending on the context. In some cases, the name of this inflectional system is called Declension, and it's the case of nominal parts, defining objects, living beings, but also qualities that characterize these elements. In this category we find, for example, nouns, adjectives or pronouns. These can change in their inflection depending on at least three factors. Let's try to understand that picking a random word. Banana. The three factors are number, do we have one banana, two bananas or lots of bananas? Gender, is this banana a male or a female? Or maybe, like most normal bananas, it has no gender? Or case, what kind of function does this banana have in the sentence? Is it performing the action, like in the banana is biting the football player, or receiving it, like in the football player is biting the banana? Or maybe it is the instrument someone needs to perform the action, like in I killed the football player with a banana. Or maybe that is the place where the action is performed, like in football players meeting the banana. In some other cases, this inflectional system is called conjugation, and it refers to verbs, that is, the action taking place in that specific utterance. In this case, we can have different forms depending on other factors. One of these factors can be the subject, answering the following question. Who is the person performing the action we are talking about? Is it the speaker, or the person the speaker is talking to, or maybe someone else, like a banana? Another factor can be the moment the action is performed, that is what we call tense, or the way it is performed, for example mood, aspect and voice. But we will talk about this in the next lessons. Today we will only speak about nominal elements. Just to conclude, let me tell you there are also other parts of speech which are not inflected, like prepositions or conjunctions or interjections, elements that we need to connect words or sentences, or, like interjections, just to express a spontaneous reaction to a feeling or to something happening. Oh my god, it's late! Well, as you can understand, today we don't have time to talk about everything. We will focus on the nominal words, and specifically we will talk about nouns, adjectives and pronouns. These words could be declined in Indo-European according to their gender, that could be masculine, feminine or neuter. In an early stage of Indo-European, masculines and feminines most probably belong to a single gender category called uter, from Latin uter, meaning of either gender, while neuter, from Latin neuter, means of neither gender. Nouns usually belong to only one gender category, while adjectives and pronouns, which always refer to a noun, can receive different endings depending on the gender of the noun they refer to. In Germanic, we find the three genders we mentioned. Gender doesn't always reflect the real nature of things. You can see this still today. For example, in German, Milch, meaning milk, is feminine, while it is masculine in other languages, such as Italian, but neuter in Russian. In Italian, when I talk about myself as a tour guide, I have to use the word guida, which is feminine, so all adjectives must be used in the feminine form.
I can't understand why I have to use feminine adjectives while talking about myself.
These words had different forms depending on number as well. Today, most languages only have a difference between singular and plural, but Indo-European had another one, dual, referring to a pair of things, like eyes or sunglasses. Anyway, dual was lost in the Germanic languages, except in Gothic. In that language, pronouns and nouns can be inflected in the dual form. There were not only we and you, but also pronouns meaning the two of us, we can make it if we try, and the two of you, with different verb endings. The third variable of declension was the case. Indo-European had probably 8 or 9 different cases. Nominative for the subject performing the action, accusative for the object receiving or undergoing the action, vocative used when calling someone,
BaNaNaZ! Where are you?
genitive for possession, dative to indicate the recipient or beneficiary of an action, ablative originally referring to motion away from something, locative for the location where an action takes place, and instrumental showing the element used as a means to perform the action. In Germanic, there was a tendency to reduction of case inflection, called case syncretism, which is something that is affecting Indo-European languages still today. As a result of the phonological and tonological phenomena we were speaking about in the previous videos, some cases were grouped into one, and the number of cases was reduced. Germanic maintained 6 of them: nominative, accusative, dative, genitive, instrumental, and vocative. But no Germanic language preserved all 6 cases. Another important thing to say is that every word was formed by different parts. The root, which is the core of the word, where you have the basic meaning of it, then a suffix, which includes a thin vowel or other sounds, and that defines the class the specific word belongs to, and consequently the different desinence forms it can take. And finally the desinence, bearing grammatical meanings, like case, number, or gender. Root and suffix together are also referred to as stem. Germanic nouns could belong to several classes with different endings. A first class consisted of masculine and neuter nouns and had a as a thin vowel, coming from Indo-European o, which is the same class we find in Latin us, or in Greek os, on. In both cases masculines or neuters. As an example, you can see the Indo-European word vulquos, meaning wolf, which became Germanic vulfas, Latin lupus, from Proto-Latin lupos, and Greek lykos, till today likos in modern Greek. A second one was that of o as a thin vowel, mostly feminines, coming from Indo-European a. And here as well, we can see that other Indo-European languages have feminine nouns ending in a, like Latin. These 2 first classes are the largest ones. As you can see, I'm not giving examples in modern Germanic languages because final vowels disappeared everywhere as a consequence of the accent shift we talked about last time. Smaller classes with vocalic stems were the one having e as a thin vowel and another one with u. In this case as well, we see parallelisms with other Indo-European languages. There were also small groups with suffix ending in consonant. This could be n, called weak declension, r, s, and nd. There were also the so-called root stems, that is, stems without any suffix, whereby stem and root are the same thing, and the root is connected directly to the desinence. Adjectives could belong to classes which roughly correspond to the ones we have already mentioned for nouns, but with a big difference. Nouns could belong to one and only one of these classes, while adjectives could belong to the different classes depending on their gender. For example, the same adjective could behave as a noun of a class if it was masculine or neuter, or as a noun of the O class if it was feminine. Some adjectives could belong to the classes with I or U. There are just a few of them, but they were soon assimilated by the classes we have mentioned before. Among the classes with stem ending in a consonant, there is one it's absolutely necessary to mention, and it's the class we named as weak, with stem ending in n. Almost all adjectives could belong to this class, but only in case the noun they referred to was already well known or had already been mentioned before. This was a new feature that Germanic introduced and that didn't exist in Indo-European. This feature still exists today in some Germanic languages. Take German ein hoher Berg, a high hill. It's not a hill we already know or that has already been mentioned. Therefore, the adjective hoch takes a strong declension. But if you already know what hill we're talking about, then you'll say der hohe Berg, the high hill, changing the desinence and using a so-called weak declension. In addition to nouns and adjectives, another part of speech that can be declined are pronouns. That is, those words that refer to something different every time we use them, depending on the context. Among all kinds of pronouns, we have personal pronouns. For example, if you say I see you, both I and you are personal pronouns, because they refer to specific people we can identify only if we know the context. That is, who the speaker is and who he's talking to. We have demonstrative pronouns as well, like this and that, things we can identify because someone is pointing them out or because they had just been mentioned by someone. There are interrogative pronouns used to ask questions like what or where or who and others, but we will not mention all of them. These words are much more conservative than nouns or adjectives. In fact, still today, for example, we can see that the interrogative pronoun in Indo-European quod became in Germanic what, and still today we have in English what and Latin quod. Or, referring to personal pronouns, we can see that, for example, the pronoun for the first singular person used as a subject didn't change a lot in the different languages. See how Dutch ik is still similar to Latin ego or Greek ego. Reconstructing a language that left no written texts and that was spoken thousands of years ago is like walking blindfold on a tightrope. Although we have made great strides over the last centuries, still I wouldn't be surprised if one day we understand that the Indo-European and the Germanic language are extremely different from the idea we have of these languages today. In such a dangerous minefield, easily reconstructible elements are a lifeline that allows linguists to be more self-confident in going forward with research. Another part of speech that could have been mentioned today, but I haven't, is the article, like the or a/n in English, which is declined in several Indo-European languages today, in Germanic languages as well, like German, and it is used to define something or someone as well known by the speakers or not. It's approximately the same strategy given by the use of strong declension and weak declension. So theoretically you can adopt one of the two strategies, unless you are German and you like complicating things and you use both. But I didn't say anything yet because it looks like articles were an invention which came up in a later stage of Germanic. For example, we have remarked that in Gothic, the oldest attested Germanic language, the usage of article hadn't completely consolidated yet. It's something in the middle between a demonstrative pronoun and an article. But we will see this better another day. Okay, it's time to say goodbye now. I'll wait for you here for the next lesson. So see you and behave yourselves.